Pro Media professional live streaming service. Experience the difference when it's live. Pro Media provides you a complete range of live and demand streaming solutions, no matter what your special event may be. Weddings, funerals, concerts, press conferences, conventions, seminars, workshops, meetings, religious events, and more. For more information, call 669-5376 or 609-5264. Experience the difference when it's live. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Mixed Essence. My name is Leanna Allen, and today we're having a very important conversation that is based on divorce recovery. I am joined by two special guests, once again, Michelle Charles, and we have with us Andrew Gupta. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so Michelle,
Yes.
I know divorce recovery is something very near and dear to your heart.
Yeah.
And you even have established an organization to help support persons that may be navigating this season of their lives called Help and Hope Family Services.
Yes, that's right.
Can you just give us a little information on the organization before we get into the discussion?
Okay. Well, Help and Hope Family Services is a non-governmental organization, non-for-profit, and it just does not only focus on divorce recovery. This organization is interested in seeing everyone in the society, in Guyanese society, develop a deeper sense of emotional intelligence, self-awareness, just being able to do life better. And because of my personal experience, I've recognized that people who have gone through divorce are normally not considered a group that needs support. But I felt moved at about 2 years ago to create an online Facebook group for divorced women, and to date, the number is about 7,000. So that speaks to the fact that there is a need for people to have a safe space to speak about their struggles with divorce and divorce recovery. And we're interested as an organization to see if this is a space we can create for the populace of Guyana. So this conversation is going to help us to navigate some of the challenges and to see if indeed we have people out there who are interested in being seen and heard as they go through the struggle in a safe space.
Right.
And that's what Help and Hope wants to provide in terms of divorce recovery.
Okay, great. All right, so let's jump in. Usually when we're referring to someone that has gone through a divorce or the initial point of, I don't want to say intervention, but where we often think the most support is needed is from an emotional point of view for the divorcee. Do you agree, based on your personal journeys, that this is the point of intervention that really needs the most focus?
I'll let Andrew go.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yes, I don't want to, I can't generalize because I guess I'm not a professional counselor or anything, but out of my own personal experience, what I found was because of my worldview growing up, the way I saw divorced people, it was, in a nutshell, especially for the man, you have one thing to do in life, and that's to be a good husband. So if you get divorced, you fail at the one thing that you had to do. So in essence, my worldview was like I saw divorced people as this broken thing, and so then I saw myself that way. So my emotions for a period was just in flux. So there were good days, there were bad days, and I suspect that it's not just me, but there are others who would, I'm sure that experience felt the same way.
Yeah, I agree with Andrew. And because of my exposure to women from all over the world who share their experiences, I think it's pretty much generalized that, I mean, I haven't done the research, but, you know, based on what I see, you know, what people talk about there, that emotions are very, very raw. There are good days and there are bad days. There are days when some women want to take their lives, you know, because when a divorce happens, it's your reality that disintegrates.
Right.
You know, this is what I have. This is what me and this person have created, this family unit. And you would have gone into that relationship not thinking that you would end up divorced.
Right.
There are very, very few people, and I want people to understand this, because people tend to, some people tend to come at or think about divorced people as you know, people who did not put in enough effort. You did not put in enough work, so as you know, you failed. You know, no divorced person walks down the aisle thinking that in a few years or in 10 years, 15 years, whatever, myself and this person are no longer going to be together.
Right.
That is never it. You always believe that you are going to last. You know, you're going to have a good life. You bring the children into the world and you're going to flourish and all of that.
Yeah.
You know, so when people end up divorced, they lose this dream of having this person with them and their children, and seeing the children grow and welcoming grandchildren together. So much is lost. It's not just the separation of the two individuals. It's everything that you dreamed that you would do together and achieve together.
Right.
You know, so.
I remember hearing, I can't remember who it was, but they were describing the experience of divorce as when you take two sheets of paper and you stick it together with glue, and then you try to tear the papers apart. Pieces of either side is left on it's never a clean break, so to speak. There is always damage, there is always rough patches, etc. Do you think that men and women experience the similar levels of emotional distress going through this process? I know you don't have the stats, but just based on you know, people that you know and your experiences, etc. What do you think?
I love to take that one first.
Yeah, I think generally it's known that men and women do process things differently. And then even when you separate by sex, individuals will be based on how we grew up, or we process things differently. But I think, there is a lot of emotional stress and strain that we face. And not everyone shows it. But definitely, and for some people also, it happens right away. And then there are others, like, personally speaking, like, it took a while before it sank in. Yeah, so there's like lots of variables and lots of ways to really understand like what's going on.
Right.
Yeah. As you mentioned, we don't have the stats. We're just speaking from the perspective of others that we would have heard. You know, we've listened to their stories and shared and so on, and our personal journeys. Women are emotional. I mean, men are emotional too. Let me just make that clear, because I think we have gotten caught up in the hype that women are emotional and men are rational. Men have emotions too.
Of course.
But women have been, I think the nature and nurture of women, we are more relational from a very early age.
Okay.
The way we interact with our little friends and so on is different from the way little boys would interact with their friends.
Right.
So there's something at the nature level that goes on in our brains that helps us to connect and build relationships better, and probably be more share more empathy and things like that, right? But it's not that men are not emotional. Men don't feel. Men feel.
Yeah.
God made both of us with the same set of emotions.
Yeah.
And
I heard
then
it say women are more emotionally naked. Men are more.
Well,
I don't know if that's.
in a sense, yes, we feel a little bit more free to share our emotional pain and stuff like that than men would.
Right.
Right? And that can create a little difference in the way we deal with our emotional, the pain and the distress that comes from divorce. There was something else. Okay, I'll leave it there for now because I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Apologies. Okay. So the things that we are exposed to, media and otherwise, people that we know, etc., it would often seem like it's easier for a man to move on after a divorce than it is for a woman. Can we flesh that out a little bit? What are your thoughts on that? I'm asking and I'm thinking, is he actually moving on, or is he just plastering what he's not trying to deal with?
To process.
But, what are your thoughts on that? Some women never remarry. They just, live for their children or, their whatever those things are.
Well, the stats actually show that.
Okay.
That men, a larger percent of divorced men remarry
Okay.
than women. A large percent of divorced women, do not get back into marriage. They live for their children, their grandchildren, their animals, whatever they have in their lives. And that has to do with the way with many things, because divorce is so different for everybody.
Right.
Some people had happy marriages. And some of the stories that I read, it's devastating. It makes my experience pale in comparison. Some women had happy marriages for 2 decades.
Wow.
And then out of the blue, they discover that their husband might be, engaging in infidelity, or they just start to pull away. They don't want to have anything more to do with them. Maybe the woman may have developed some kind of illness, and he doesn't want to play that role of caretaker, so he just pulls away. And it depends on what happened in the marriage contributes to how devastating the divorce could be.
Okay.
So if for those who had really good marriages and then out of the blues, that word came from the spouse that, what, I don't want to do this anymore. It's way more devastating than a marriage that has had a lot of pain and hurt throughout the marriage. Because then your mind is preparing, well, really, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? There's so much dysfunction here, and you're thinking these things. But when you're in love and you're just happy with this person, and then out of the blue, you hear like it's a whole different ball game. It's a whole different ball game, and people are dealing with different levels of emotional turmoil when it comes to divorce.
Right. Andre, how important do you think it is to allow yourself to grieve? I I think that's something people may tend to shy away from. But in this process of getting to a place of healing and recovery, how important do you think it is to allow yourself to go through that process of grieving?
It's very important, because if you don't do it, if you sort of try to suppress it, sometime in the future it comes back, and then you might find yourself, okay, you have all of these emotions and regrets and hurts, and you thought that, okay, you had dealt with them and you had grieved, but what you actually did was you just suppressed them. But they're still there, and the only way to actually deal with it and heal from it is to, like you're saying, allow yourself to grieve, process it, feel the hurt, just embrace it. And it's through doing that you're in a better position to heal and become whole again.
So, based on your experiences, as you work through that process to get to a place of healing, what do you think you needed the most to help you navigate that emotional landscape that you may not have had? We know in Guyana, we don't really have these structures and organizations, etc., in place to give people the kind of support that they may need to navigate these things. What is one thing that you think you really needed at that time that you may not have had access to?
I needed to be seen and heard by people who understand. And I did not have that. I did not have that. Because people are normally silent. They hold the hurt inside, and some people are they're not willing to create a space to help you grieve. So you have to turn to God and talk to God, and but healing happens in community.
Healing happens in community.
And I see it every day. I mean, as a matter of fact, I'm sorry, I'm talking about this Facebook group so often. But the thing is, what is happening in that group is so powerful, because women in that group are inviting other women. I and two other individuals are admins of the group, and we struggle to deal with the membership requests.
Wow.
We have to set aside time because we do not. What has happened is, there's some unsavory characters that try to get into the group. Some men try to get into the group. Women for their own
take advantage.
And this is a very vulnerable space. So we police the membership requests very closely. And over the last week, every time we go to, it's 100 and something people waiting, and we try to bring it down to whatever, and by the time we get back, it's 100 and something again. So that people
craving
want a safe space to talk. And the thing that I find very ironic about that group, and I'm not sure how it will play out if we're able to establish a local group here, but they are also professional therapists and coaches within that group, people who have come to help. And oftentimes, when help is offered, there's very little traction. And people just want to share their stories and have people come around them, pray with them, pray for them, say, yes, I get you.
Wow.
I've been there. I understand what you're going through. That seems to be the more valuable thing than just getting, professional help. And so those who actually need professional help, they seek professional help through other avenues. But there's very little traction with the professional help that is offered within the group.
Right.
People just want to talk. want you to hear me. They want to be seen and heard in a safe space.
Right. There's something about knowing that you're not alone.
Yes.
Yeah. Andrew, what's it for you?
Yeah, I don't think for me there was anything that was inaccessible. It was more about my willingness. What I found that I needed to just open up and talk to people. But it's not that I didn't have people I could talk to. It was just my own unwillingness because of my own perceptions. I was basically afraid of how people would view me. They would see me as a failure. Some people might be like just completely disappointed. So in my head, I had already rationalized how it's going to go, and instead of dealing with that, I just for a while just kept it all inside.
Right.
But once I finally opened up and started to talk to people, I realized that a lot of what was going on in my head is just not reality. It's not true. And it was in talking to people that I think I was able to process it better. And I was talking to one friend also, and she recommended to journaling helps. And so that's one of the things that I did just to process my thoughts. And so, I think in my case, it's not that I needed things that were inaccessible. It was just a matter of my own willingness to use what was available to me.
Right. So, what would you say to someone here, Guyanese context again? Sometimes I think depends on our social spaces. Like you said, there wasn't anything that was inaccessible to you. But there may be some persons that are in a particular social setting where if they know if they do open up, it would not be a space that is safe, in essence, for them to share. What would you say, or what words of wisdom you may have for someone that is divorced, is going through that process of healing, in terms of moving forward, being willing to share or finding a space to share? Are there any words of wisdom that you would want to encourage anybody with?
Yeah. In this day and age, we live in an era where information is available everywhere at the touch of a button. You tap your phone, you get information. There's information out there that can help people. There are support groups that can help people. Having if you don't have a good support group of your own, in terms of friends and family that you can talk to, that you feel would understand,
right,
and you would not feel judged and invalidated, that is important, because you may have friends and family that you can talk to,
right,
but
what are they going to say?
Right, what are they going to say? Are they going to invalidate your feelings? Are they going to make you feel more like a failure? Are they going to create more shame? Because a lot of people experience shame around divorce. Are they going to create more shame? So if you cannot, if you do not have such a support group, then reaching out, going online, searching for support groups are very important.
Okay.
But one of the reasons, and this is one of the reasons why Help and Hope is trying to establish a support group, a local support group for divorcees, so that they will know that they will have a group of people who understand from the Guyanese cultural perspective as well, some of the challenges, because a lot of things that we experience is the social and cultural aspect that has colored our lenses and all of that. So there is help, right? So people can reach out. And I also want people to know that the way you think, and as Andrew shared just now, the way you think about your situation determines your reality, in a sense. So because he thought that there was no one there, he did not reach out. So that was his reality at that time, until he came to the place where he decided, you know what, I'm going to try and I'm going to reach out. And then he realized that, yeah, it's okay for me to share. It was just, you know, my fears that was holding me back. So sometimes the dangers that we envisage are not necessarily out there, but inside.
Right.
And we hold ourselves back because we're afraid that, you know, persons will not understand it, we will not be seen and heard. You know, and persons would invalidate our feelings, you know. So
yeah. Andre, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, it's just to echo the same thoughts that we need. And I think you said earlier that we, in essence, that we need community. We're built for a community, and that's how we process. And if you're afraid, and the idea of community might sound a bit scary because you think of multiple persons, but start small. Maybe just one person. Talk with one person, because it's very important to keep it all inside. It's just going to do you more harm than good.
Yeah. I remember how many years ago this is now, when you first started the marriage enrichment group. I think in some ways that helped to save my marriage at that time, because we were going through a very challenging season. And when you indicated some videos or something to look at, and in my head I was like, what video could do for me? A video can't do nothing for me right now, right? But gave it a try, and, you know, started to share the material. My husband felt the same way. But as we started to engage with the content, it's almost like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You know? You can't have a frame of reference for it because it's just not in your frame of reference. And when you open up yourself to it, it really does open up your world. So when you started the marriage enrichment group, this is where we had a number of different couples that came together, and we would just go through different content about marriages and so on. It really helped to create a different dynamic. Everybody was dealing with their own types of challenges, but because because it's a community, there is no space for feeling judged or pointed at, because we're all just sharing our experiences in this space. So I do understand the need for community. So as we wrap up, can you share what are some of the things that you would have learned from this process of going through divorce? Every situation in life presents opportunities for learning. Is there anything that you would be willing to share that you have learned from going through this specific type of experience?
Yes. I think it is important to keep your heart open. I think that's one of the primary lessons that I've learned. Because some people allow the hurt to consume them, and they close their hearts off. And because of that, they never have the opportunity to experience a loving romantic relationship again.
I see.
So don't close your heart. Don't close off your heart. Allow yourself to grieve. That is very important. Allow yourself to grieve. Recognize that grief has different stages.
Right.
And sometimes you may get to one stage and you bounce back, but allow yourself to grieve. Sometimes you will cry your eyes out. Sometimes you will be happy. That's okay. That's quite normal to bounce around in your emotions.
Right.
But allowing your emotions to consume you and stay there, you know, especially the ones that feel like it's sucking you in, you could end up in depression. Some people do, because as I mentioned, some people mention that they want to take their own lives. That's when you allow yourself to become so emotionally overwhelmed that you can't see the forest from the trees. You can't see that tomorrow things could be better.
Right.
This is not the end. Life changes and continues to move on, and my life will not always be here. So if we get stuck, then we can't see our way forward. We not allowing that emotional abyss to suck us in is very important. Keep your heart open, allow yourself to grieve, and don't get stuck in the grief process. Don't allow that emotion, those complex mix of emotions, to suck you into the vortex that you feel you can't find your way out. You can find your way out.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Andrew, do you have any lesson from your experience that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I guess it's just two things real quickly. One is that you can learn a lot from your failures, and that's a general lesson that we all know. And it's the same for divorce and marriage. You can look back and think a lot and see where you've gone wrong and learn from those things. So it becomes actually, there are some things that you can redeem, and it sets you up and prepares you for what comes next.
Right.
And also, often when we think about divorce, sometimes we think about, okay, it must have been something that was just big and dramatic, but it's not always the case.
Sure.
The little things, they add up over time. So pay attention to the little things, and just as when you neglect them, they add up and it becomes negative.
Right.
If you get them right, over time, it adds up and it becomes positive.
Very true. Guys, thank you so much for your time and your willingness to share. Thank you so much. I hope that you've benefited from this conversation, and we will share contact that you can reach out to if you're interested in being a part of the Help and Hope Family Services Divorce Recovery Support System. I do hope you will take advantage of it, and take good care. Pro Media Professional Live Streaming Service. Experience the difference when it's live. Pro Media provides you a complete range of live and demand streaming solutions, no matter what your special event may be. Weddings, funerals, concerts, press conferences, conventions, seminars, workshops, meetings, religious events, and more. For more information, call 669-5376 or 609-5264. Experience the difference when it's live.